Hi, I'm Magaible, and we're going to do a little ganking for an hour or so. I'm going to share some info on setup, targets, technique, and a little bit about the culture of high-sec gate ganking. Have taken a note of a few things that I would like to talk about, but there'll be a lot of chat and waffle depending on what comes up. What you'll see very quickly is that this is Eve in ugly mode. This is functional, it's not beautiful. And I once had a comment that this looks like a 1980s video game, and that is not wrong. So we're set up on a gate here, catching things in high sec, going in and out of jitter. You get lots of different types of ganking in EVE Online, and what I am doing here is the theft of high value items being transported in easily killed small ships. So my setup here consists of 4 pilots. My main here, my Gaibo, is in a Thrasher. Hey is also in a Thrasher. I have got a Griffin giving me remote sensor boosting and tracking. And I've got my getaway driver. Now the Thrashers are fit for 2 things: fast locking and scanning, cargo scanning, and then maximum possible DPS, and you get 1 shot. I've seen some gankers try to fit out Thrashers with tank, and the system I'm in is a 1.0 security status, so you get 1 shot in a Thrasher and then you're dead. So there's no point of a tank. So I fit this. The rigs are to increase the speed of cargo scanning. I'll just show you my passives. A couple of gyro stabilizers. So the next thing is the ship positioning. So the 2 Thrashers I've got on, as I look at it, the left hand side of the jitter gate and perimeter. As close as possible to the gate, without getting so you would get stuck on it. And most of the autopiloting traffic that comes in on this side. So my getaway drive is just at the landing point of where the autopiloting traffic lands, which is about 11 kilometers away, which is my optimals. So it all works out quite nicely. The Griffin orbits because people like to try and shoot the Griffin, so it makes it a little bit more difficult. And it's an Imicus that I use. It's fast, it's got large cargo hold, and it's cheap. So to my left, as I'm looking at it, we have got Tranquility Trading Tower, which sells the bulk of the high value stuff that I'm after, things like skill extractors, skill injectors. And you can see here that this is the stuff that's autopiloting in. And you can have a little nosy, you can have a look and see what's in there, even if you can't steal it. And I think you would be surprised at the amount of pilots who choose to autopilot with crazy cargoes in high sec. So the targets that I would usually go for are the autopiloters coming in this way, ships that just jump through from Jita and sit there. They've manually jumped through and they're just sitting around the 17 kilometer mark. It's almost like they think that as soon as they're out of Jita they're safe. But I got a pilot the night before last with 10 skill extractors, jumped through in a shuttle and was just sitting there. So the first target, autopiloters. Second one, people who just jump through. And the third one is something I've just recently started doing, which is any corvette at all, any noob ship that jumps through, even if it tries to warp off straight away, there is a small window where it can be scanned and shot. So my overview at the moment is corvette only. Because even though I'm messing around and trying to shoot lots of different things here, scan different things, when it comes down to, if I'm being disciplined, it is just the corvettes that I'm after at the moment. On the overview, I can see things that are autopiloting in. I don't need them on my overview. But sometimes you just want to quickly lock, pressing F1 to get the cargo scan ready, and as soon as anything jumps in and it's between 16 and 19 kilometers on the overview, you just click on it straight away, and that's when you're starting to get into that automatic mode of seeing if it's worth killing and hopefully getting a shot off in time. So ships that you can realistically get with this setup that are autopiloting, anything up to frigate size, not assault frigate, but most frigates, depending on how they're fit. Some of the pirate frigates have got lovely shields, which is just, you can't even get through with 2 Thrashers. But shuttles, corvettes and ventures. And people do fly these ships with ridiculous cargoes in them. So these aren't the ones that I'm after, but they're there and there's nothing else to scan. So it's worth having a little look. Things that you notice straight away is that if you've got a pilot autopiloting through and his security status is like -1.7, then you think this is someone who's maybe a bit more of a cynical pilot and probably isn't going to be carrying skill injectors on board. Now we're playing at about half an hour after dime time's ended. So one of the quieter times of the day. Here we go. This venture's just jumped through. This is an example. He's just jumped through and he's just sitting there. He's got nothing on board. But you've got to pay more attention than that. Okay, I'm a little bit slow off the mark here. But that's just a lack of discipline. I'm looking at nonsense at the moment. There we go. Now, this is where I've got a problem with discipline. This chap's just jumped through and I've scanned him. And this is clearly what he's got on board. And I always look to this part. You shouldn't be looking to see this. You should be just looking at the value. Your eye might miss something. You might spend time looking down and trying to add it up. You don't need to. I started ganking 4 years ago, and the introduction of this made my life so much easier. Now, the value of the cargo when you scan it is usually very accurate. It doesn't always work with new skins, and obviously blueprints. It wouldn't give you the value of something that had been researched. But when it comes to the big ticket items, it's usually close enough. It isn't the same story when it comes to the kill mails. For example, it doesn't seem to show the value of some of the small skill injectors, of the daily alpha injectors. I've had a kill with over 100 daily alpha injectors, and the value was about just whatever the rest of the cargo was, about 60,000 disc or something. But this chap, this Punisher, is the one that I've jumped through here and scanned, and I can see he's empty, but it's still sitting there. So I'm just going to tag it with a 0, and that'll let me know not to scan it again. Right. Now here's a chap who's just jumped in. Okay. Right. So the gate's actually quite quiet. There's lots of people passing through, but for occupants of the gate, apart from this little Punisher, we're on our own. Which isn't always the case. There's a bit of a culture around the occupants of the gates. You get to know the people that are there, the way that they behave. So you do get other gankers, and I mentioned before about different sorts of ganking in the game. So you get a lot of people in tornadoes shooting industrial ships that come through, and that's fine. I'm happy to share a gate with them. They're after different targets to me, so it's not as if there's much of a crossover in the things that we're likely to hit. But there are other gankers that all discuss things with each other. We've got chat channels where we share tips, fits, intel, stories, and kill mails. one of the most important things that we share is intel on loot thieves. Now, it's hard to take the moral high ground when you're essentially stealing from poor pilots. And by poor, I don't mean not rich. I mean people who are making bad judgments and bad calls. But there are people who seem to spend their time not just stealing from gankers, which is fine, it's fair game, it's all within the game dynamics. But, like for example, sitting next to a smart bomber just to collect a kill rate when it goes off, and then using that 20 minutes later just to take that fella out the game for a half an hour in total. That's fine, if that's how you want to spend your time on Eve. But if the only way you can get kills is to do that, then that's pretty sad. But then the way I play it's pretty sad as well. There is a self-appointed police force corp, which are hysterical. Nobody asked for it. And they seem to be paying and losing money. They buy kill rates of gankers. So they'll look on Zkill, get a list of people that or other gankers have killed, and then write to them and offer to buy the kill rates. But there's ways around that. If you can see that these guys are out and they've got one of the kill rates, just undock in an empty Thrasher. You'll lose that kill rate and they'll be out of pocket. What's particularly odd about these police pilots is they don't collect what the gankers or the gankers getaway pilots drop. They shoot the wrecks. I had a ship shot yesterday with a 700 million ISK skin in the wreck, and they didn't loot it. It was there for them to loot. They didn't loot it. They just shot the wreck. So that must be costing them a fortune to do this, but that's up to them. You get to recognise some of the pilots coming through. There was a chap there called Macho Max. There he is there, and it'll be empty. His ibis will be completely empty. There it is. And it's because he comes through all the time. No idea what he's doing. You get podders who sit up just off the undock on Tranquility Trading Tower. They'll be sitting there in Thrashers, waiting for a pod to autopilot along. And when you have the events where the implants from the pods drop, there's like a queue of Thrashers waiting to pod everyone who comes by and then get the implants that drop. And other people that are quite active on this gate are the War Deckers. It used to be Pirate. But since they disbanded, there's a couple of other corps. And you do see a lot of, again, poor choices. People who don't understand war deck dynamics, or maybe just haven't been paying attention to notifications that they get. Jumping through with huge ships, massive cargoes, while they're war decked by a high-sec war deck corp. And the thing about that is, these corps, they don't seem to be in a hurry to loot. They seem to want to shoot the ship and then scram and pod the capsule, and then go for the loot, which gives you a little window to get in there and steal the loot. which again is allowed, takes you out the game for 15 minutes, but you know, if you're scanning that wreck or that ship that's under attack first and you know, I mean, I've picked up a large skill injector from doing that before, and hundreds of millions of ISK's worth of loot. But equally, there's times when you lose your ship because they are quick to scram. You've got to decide if it's worth it or not. So that's mostly the people that you get hanging around. There's people come and go. I've been here for quite a few years, and some names keep coming back, and some people stick around for a month or two and then you don't see them again. So I mentioned a couple of things already about the techniques that I use, or that you could consider if you're going to be doing something like this. I mentioned you get one shot. Just noticed my turrets were in the wrong slot there. Now, my second point I'm going to make about techniques, I'm just breaking my own rule here. It's discipline. Now, I should be sticking in this spot for any corvettes that jump through, like that. You can get it the moment it comes through. But if my mouse is over here and I'm scanning something else, then I'm not going to be as quick as I need to be to catch the corvettes jumping through. So there's empty Macho Max again. So don't get distracted. Don't get involved with... I try not to get involved with suspect pilots, anyone who jumps through. The reason being, if you shoot a suspect pilot, then you lose your remote tracking and your remote sensor boosting. My Griffin has got its safety set to green. So the moment that I shoot something, whether it's suspect or not, I will lose that for a few minutes. And it's not really worth it for a suspect kill. It's invariably got an empty cargo. It might be different if you're talking about a larger suspect. I mean, if you've got something in a battleship, you're probably going to want to just haul that kill mail. So the overview here, as I've mentioned, is set to just corvettes. Now, we've got a pilot here that I mentioned, the Punisher, who's been sitting there for a while. If he's sitting there in a corvette, that's going to make things a little tricky for me. So what I would do at that point is set him to a good standing. And see, I lost the ability to scan that one there because I was showing you something. But if you set it to a good standing and set your overview up right, then if a corvette's sitting there for a long time, you can get it out of there. You can not have it bothering you. You want this as clear as possible. And again, look at the ISK value when you scan something, not the items. You'd be surprised as well at how badly damaged some people are happy to autopilot in their ships. And that might bring some otherwise unshootable or unkillable ships into your range. Being in perimeter, you do sometimes get the trig ships, sitting around this gate, so you've got to watch your standings. And that does cause, I don't believe, I might be wrong, but I don't believe that they scram ships. But you do know when they're in system, because some of the autopiloting ships are coming to you with damage in the shield or the armor. I do wish you could scan pods to see what's in there, particularly when they allow you to shoot them and they drop. It would be nice to know if that's got a set of snakes in it. Here's a little hint. If you do shoot a pod and the kill mail doesn't come up instantly, it means that it's empty. The empty ones take a minute or two to come through. So this can sometimes happen for a good couple of hours. You could end up with nothing happening. But I'll see if I can get a nice kill for you. I'm not following my own advice. I should be staying up here. I did used to find that you would get more kills on a weekend when I started doing this. I don't know if it's still the case now. Things have changed quite a lot in the last, the 4 years that I've been doing it. I think the biggest change has been the introduction of the Plex vault. When I started doing this, people were autopiloting with the Plex in cargo, and this is back when one Plex was equivalent to 28 days play, 30 days play, before they changed it to 500 Plex in the Plex vault. And I did catch a chap who had well over, I think it was over 25 of the old full Plex in, I think it may have been a Kestrel. Same with skill injectors. I don't know what possesses people to autopilot with skill injectors. Fortunately, there's no skill injector vault, so people do still feel like it's alright to transport them. You can activate skill injectors remotely. There's no reason that they should ever be undocked. But thankfully, people still do it. I suppose the loot fairy is something we should be discussing as well. So there's seemingly a 50% chance of something dropping after you shoot. And I'd say that that's about right. It doesn't feel like when you're going for things like skill injectors that perhaps they don't drop more often than they do. But I think it's pretty accurate. But even if it drops, that's not the end of it. You've still got to go and pick it up. And you've got to get a balance between getting the ship there fast enough and not so fast that you overshoot it. Now this chap's been sitting here just for a few seconds too long. So, oh, now, that, again, just bad timing. Because I'm messing about with this ship here, I missed the one coming through. But by adding him as a blue, he disappears from the overview. This is quiet. This is quite a quiet time of day. Maybe quite good in the way that I can concentrate on giving a little bit of advice on my setup. Unfortunately, there's not much in the way of targets. Now this is good. It's not. Oh, who's this? This is a good way of playing as a solo player. I don't imagine that this is going to be much fun if I was sitting here with another pilot. When it comes to shooting something, if it's bigger, there's obviously an advantage to having other pilots around. But these targets, this is fine for a one-person setup. Now you're going to have to make a decision at some point about whether or not something that you scanned is worth killing, is worth shooting. And there's a few things you've got to take into account. So the cost of security tags to fix your security status once you've killed something in high sec. Got to factor that in. So each tag, the price varies. Historically, it can go down to, well, at the moment it's quite low, between 12, 14 million per tag. But you've got to factor in the Concorde costs as well. So be on the safe side and factor that in as about, let's say 25, let's say 30 million per kill. You've got to fix your sec status. Then the cost of your ship. So the fit that I'm flying is a bit more expensive, but that has to reflect in the things that I decide to shoot. So my fit's about 20 million. But you got to factor that in twice, because you get killed, someone's going to put a kill right on you, and there's a good chance that when that kill right's activated, you're going to be in one of these ships. So factor it in twice. So between the tag, the ship, and the kill right, that's about 70 million. Now you want to be making a profit. So I would say aim for about to get about 150 million per kill, at least. You want a lot more, to be honest. You've got to remember that not all loot drops. So if you want 150 million from a kill, you got to bear that in mind. So if you average it out, 3 or 4 kills a day, where you get an 80 million profit per kill, and over the course of 30 days, you're looking at about 8.5 billion profit. But that's got to be your bare minimum. You don't really want as low as 150 million per kill. You want to be getting a golden nugget, getting something a bit better than that. And there are loads of pilots piloting in a way where they're just desperate to give you their risk. These are risky things to shoot. There's no way of knowing the value of this until you've got it in your possession. I mean, I could convo the guy and ask him, but I've had ones that have dropped that have been, well, according to Mutaplasmid website, they're worth $1 billion, and I've had ones that have dropped that are just worth 2 million. It's a risky business. You can tell by the way that the ship's flying, usually how it's fit. I don't scan fits. Don't have the time. Don't have the fit. But the you can take a look. If a frigate's autopiloting a little bit slower, then you can probably guess that it's not got speed mods on it. And also the age of a pilot, the skills that they have, means that they might be aligning and warping out a lot quicker. There seems to be a little bit of a pattern to pilots who drop large cargo. It's either going to be a brand new pilot, which I've seen that before. Someone's just joined the game and decided that they're going to buy their way up the ladder. Or people who've played the game and then been out of the game for a long time and then come back. Maybe forgotten a little bit about piracy and in-game rules. And strangely as well, what I found is people who've recently changed corp. That seems to be something that comes up quite a lot. Maybe, I don't know, they've had a change in focus in their career path. They want to boost certain aspects. Well, this is a poor show. A ganking video with no ganking. Let's see if I can get you something in the last 10 minutes. Oh. Ganking this way can reduce your entire game down to this space here. Unless something's autopiloting in, then you're just looking at this little spot here. So it isn't as much fun as PvP or anything where you have to put a great deal of thought into it. But it does have its unique set of entertainment values. The buzz that you get when you scan and see a really large cargo is not the sort of thing that you usually get with PvP. But then with PvP, you're not usually sitting around 99% of the time doing nothing. So it's a trade-off. Not that you'd know it from what I've done just now, but ganking has paid for my Eve for the last 4 years for 3 to 4 accounts. So to everyone that I've ganked, thank you very much for that. This is something that always throws me. The word capital is usually a good thing when you scan a ship. But the word copy isn't. I mean, if they were originals, that would be some kill. Oh, another few minutes left. Let's see if we can get anything. It's a good idea to close down the scan result windows every now and then. It does seem to be that if you have too many of them open, it does slow down the reaction time of the scan results coming up. And if you do have like over 30 or 40 open, then when it comes to closing them, it can make the client freeze up for a moment or two. This Phobos that's sitting here is obviously trying to catch my looter. I've already scanned that one. He's obviously trying to catch my looter if he goes suspect. The thing about getting... Sometimes if you're lucky enough to get a larger kill and it alerts people on Z kill, it attracts attention, and you speak to the other gankers and you find out that there's always people around who are trying to... If you get a good kill, it brings people who want to stop it from happening or try and get it for themselves. But I imagine when they see this video and see how dull and fruitless ganking can be, it might put them off. You've just got to always try and be a little bit faster. Try and maybe even hit the warp button before you loot all. It does allow you to do that. I have hit the warp button before and then it's taken me away before I've looted it. You don't want that. I actually went for a long time without having anything that I'd looted being stolen or having my looter destroyed, but recently just been a little slack. It's been my own fault most of the time. Again, it's that word, isn't it? It's discipline. I'll give it 5 more minutes. You do actually get people who still use warp to gate. So if you see someone sitting there just a fraction too long, it is worth trying to give them a scan, see what happens. If you do get somebody who jumps through and they warp away before you manage to get a shot off, it is worth following them. If they're going up to like one of the citadels, there's not much point following them there. They'll get tethered almost immediately upon landing. But if they're going to another gate, give it a fleet warp. You might catch up with them. You might find out that they're autopiloting. You might catch them on the other side. Delightfully named Cake Fart. You just got to focus in on this point, and if anything pops up, just click on it. So what I'm going to do after this part of the video is put together some clips of some stuff which shows you, gives examples of some of the pointers and advice that I've waffled on about. Things where things haven't gone right, or maybe they've gone wrong. Because clearly there's nothing happening today. thanks for watching. I'm sorry that one of your court mates hasn't come along with some skill injectors for me to take. But I'll keep recording and I'll add on anything that I find. Bye bye.